Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your news edition. These are the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received congratulation messages from leaders of brotherly and friendly countries as well as presidents of international organizations on the occasion of the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the National Liberation War. The 2026 draft finance bill presented before the People's National Assembly includes a series of measures aiming at supporting investment. In Gaza, the waste management became a struggle given that the war destroyed all the infrastructures. Welcome back. On the occasion of the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the National Liberation War, the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Deputy Emir of Qatar, Abdullah bin Hamad Al Thani, for his part, congratulated the President of the Republic. On the same occasion, the Emir of Kuwait, Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, sent a congratulation message. For his part, the President of the Federal Republic of Germany, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, congratulated the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, for this commemoration. Another congratulation message, this time by the President of Poland, Karol Nawrocki. The President of Hungary, Tamás Sulyok, also sent a congratulation message. The President of Slovakia, Peter Pellegrini, for his part, congratulated the President of the Republic for this historical day. The President of Slovenia, Nataša Pirc-Musar, also sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic. The General Secretary of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghait, also sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic and saluted the heroes of the glorious liberation war determined to free Algeria. On the same occasion, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received a congratulation message from the President of Bulgaria, Rumen Radev. The President of the Republic also received a message from the President of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema. The President of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, for his part, congratulated the President of the Republic for this glorious commemoration. On the same occasion, the President of Indonesia, Prabowo Subianto, also sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic. And the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, also received a congratulation message from the President of Singapore, Tharman Shan Mugaratnam. The President of Malta, Miriam Spiteri Debono, also sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic. On this occasion, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Thailand, Anutin Charnvirakul, sent a congratulation message to the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. Economy now, with the presentation of the 2026 draft finance bill by the Minister of Finance, Abdelkarim Bouzred, before the People's National Assembly. On this occasion, the Minister affirmed that the draft bill comes at a time marked by the progressive resume of economy led by the efforts of the government in the various sectors, and that the draft bill includes budgets of more than 17,636 billion dinars in 2026 and 8,009 billion dinars estimated revenues. The national economic growth for the upcoming year should reach 4.1% before increasing to 4.4% in 2027, then 4.5% in 2028, according to the 2026 draft finance forecasts. A new ambitious finance bill for 2026, based on investment and social consolidation in order to reflect a dynamic and successful economy, focusing on key sectors such as agriculture, industry, health, education. More details with Manal Bobagara.
The 2026 Finance Bill outlines an ambitious budgetary policy for the next 3 years, highlighting an economic strategy geared towards diversification, recovery through investment and consolidation of social gains. A record budget estimated at 17,636,000.66 billion dinars, which is based on an economic growth of 4.1% in 2026, with a reference price per barrel set at $60. The GDP is expected to reach 41,900 billion dinars, of which 36,283 billions will come from hydrocarbons driven by agriculture, industry and construction. Inflation is expected to be kept under control at 2.9%, reflecting confidence in the recovery of the national economy and in the effectiveness of the structural reforms undertaken in recent years. Public investment, which is at the heart of the budgetary policy, will exceed $15,816 billion, or nearly 83% of the total budget. A direction that confirms the priority given to modernizing the country, economic recovery and improving the living conditions of citizens. Social spending amounts go up to 933 billion dinars, with a strong focus on priority fields such as health, education and national solidarity. This effort demonstrates the state's commitment to social justice. The FP provides for a 1.4 increase in the wage bill, represented 1/3 of the overall budget. A total of 657 billion dinars will be allocated to subsidize for the consumer goods and social transfers, reaching 2,284 billion dinars, with 420 billion for unemployment benefits and 424 billion for retirement pensions. On the fiscal front, the text introduces several measures, mainly a reduction in the tax rate on dividends from 15% to 10% and exemptions from the solidarity contribution for certain sectors, in line with the economic reforms of this FP. This is a pivotal year to lay the foundations for the new economy that is structured around productive investment, fiscal governance and diversification of revenue sources, thus reflecting the state's desire to maintain growth, reduce unemployment and preserve social cohesion.
In the capital, a scientific day was organized to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Algerian foreign cooperation in the modern technologies for medical screening and diagnosis, with the participation of early doctors and specialists. It was an opportunity to review the achievements of the past 2 decades made by Algeria and its foreign partners. A sweeping crackdown on Morocco's Gen Z 212 movement has exposed the regime silencing its youth through repression, injustice and systematic denial of basic human rights. Najah Tiyar with the details.
Thousands of young Moroccans, including children and teenagers, have been arbitrarily arrested during the recent Gen Z 212 protests in what rights groups denounce as a brutal crackdown, exposing the true face of a repressive regime. Many detainees were reportedly beaten and held in inhumane conditions, while their families remain in anguish, deprived of any information about their fate or health. The wave of arrests has shaken the public opinion across the country, as national and international human rights organizations condemn grave abuses and demand accountability for a system determined to silence every voice of dissent. They told me, "This number belongs to your son. It's his case file." Then, to my great surprise, everything changed at the court. They told me that the file was incomplete and that the data had been altered. Without any explanation, they reclassified my son's death from international homicide to a simple traffic accident, despite all the evidence I presented. They falsified my son's file. They even changed the date of his death from 2025 to 2021 with the complicity of a forensic doctor involved in 2 organ trafficking cases. When I pointed out this inconsistency, they told me it was just a coincidence and that it wasn't the same person. Nearly 1,500 young Moroccans remain in pre-trial detention without cause, as families plead for truth and justice, echoing answered under the Makhzen's silence. More than 2,400 has been arrested and prosecuted, with sentences of up to 15 years handed down to those who dare demand a dignified life. In a nation where impunity rules and human dignity is traded for silence, 3 deaths stand as a stark symbol of a system that punishes courage and represses hope.
And despite the wave of disinformation waged by the Makhzen since the adoption of the Resolution 2797 on Western Sahara, which has fabricated a victory legitimizing the Moroccan occupation, Western Sahara remains a non-self-governing territory and a decolonization issue to be resolved within the framework of the international law and UN resolutions that ensuring the right to self-determination. More details with Daniel Bahri.
Morocco can no longer hide behind its propaganda or impose its one-sided interpretation. After more than half a century of occupation, the Western Sahara issue is no longer confined to the halls of the United Nations. It has now taken center stage in the international press, which has lifted the veil on the fallacious information and exposed the media manipulations of the Moroccan occupier. Across the globe, solidarity movements are emerging. In Berlin, for example, a massive mobilization denounced the deceptive rhetoric of the colonizer. This is undoubtedly a cause for liberation, a just cause. The UN charters are clear. The Sahrawi people have the right to decide their own fate.
There is no free Sahara without the Sahrawi people. It is the Sahrawi people themselves who must decide their destiny. No one else can do it for them. We are here, Africa's last colony, and yet they want to silence us. There is no Sahrawi people without the Polisario Front, because the Polisario remains our only legitimate representative.
The Moroccan propaganda machine awkwardly builds its message on a wrong interpretation of part of UN Security Council Resolution 2797. It presents this as a so-called diplomatic victory to calm the restless Moroccan public. But the truth is very different. The resolution clearly says that referendum on self-determination is still the only solution to the Sahrawi issue.
The Moroccan regime constantly speaks of national unity, while its own people suffer from poverty, unemployment and social exclusion. Any voice raised to demand justice is immediately accused of separatism and associated with Polisario fronts. The Makhzen uses the Polisario as a pretext to silence popular anger and stifle any internal dissent.
Today, the outcome of the Sahrawi cause remains in the hands of the people. Their right to decide their own destiny remains stronger than any other disinformation campaign.
France's image as a fair and inclusive nation is crumbling, revealing deep social fractures, economic decline and growing injustice towards those who once helped build it. Najah Tiyar with the details.
Once hailed as a beacon of equality and social justice, France now finds itself in the grip of a deep crisis. The former symbol of prosperity and stability is facing a harsh economic and social reality, with employment indicators plunging into the red. Economists and observers sound the alarm as the unemployment rate, once aligned with the Eurozone average in 2017, now stands 20% higher, shattering the image of a nation long seen as a model for Europe.
Le taux de chômage en France, il était au
The
même niveau que les
unemployment rate in France was at the same level as that of the other Eurozone countries in 2017. Today, France's unemployment rate is 20% higher than theirs. So you should ask yourself why, especially since the international economic situation has actually been quite favorable for job recovery.
Behind these statistics lies another face of France, one scattered by deep inequality and selective memory. Generations of immigrants, long forgotten, once built the nation's cities, roads and factories. Yet today, a fragile labor market, increasingly reliant on public aid, exposes the limits of government policies that remain more symbolic than effective, failing to tackle the roots of the crisis and fueling growing social unrest and exclusion.
I think there are a lot of people here who, by the way, come from immigrant backgrounds. My father came legally to France, and when they arrived in 1959, some of them were even put in prison for a few days. Between 1955 and 1965, almost 2 million Portuguese people came, and for many others who arrived irregularly, they crossed under the kind, intolerant gaze of the gendarmes in Pyrenees, who let them pass and even showed them the way to come and build our country.
The so-called land of human rights now reveals a harsher reality. A France where migrants face ever stricter policies, scarce protection and almost no real path to integration. Yet it was these same foreigners, once builders of modern France, who laid the foundations of its cities and industries. Their forgotten legacy now stands in a stark contrast to a nation turning its back on those who helped shape it.
Massive destruction in Gaza touches the most basic infrastructures, which affects the city's sanitary needs. The ongoing waste management issue can no longer be postponed. Manal Boubagra.
After years of constant bombing and havoc, most Palestinian infrastructures have been completely destroyed. Now the municipality of Gaza has to deal with an unprecedented environmental and humanitarian crisis. Due to the restrictions imposed by the Zionist entity, household waste collection services were forced to create a temporary landfill site in the center of the city. It affects all the residents and displaced people who live in the area. Tons of waste continue to accumulate, transforming the city into an open-air ecological time bomb. Toxic gases, foul odors and the proliferation of insects, rodents and diseases make the situation hellish for Palestinians. Even more seriously, the infiltration of pollutants into the water table that threatens the last reserves of drinking water in a territory already suffocated by the blockade. The situation is only getting worse, and even if the municipal services wanted to remove the waste, there are no equipments to do so. Our hands are tied. Despite the ceasefire, municipal services remain unable to access the main landfills located east of the city and are therefore forced to continue discharging waste, including the most harmful and dangerous types, in this temporary yet ongoing dumping site. This situation only worsens the suffering of the inhabitants. We cannot even sleep at night because of the insects. The mosquito bites harm our children and we have nothing to relieve their pain. Even if the teams manage to enter the crossing points, it would take nearly 6 months to evacuate the landfills east of the city. A delay that raises fears and worries of a new humanitarian, health and environmental crisis, putting more fuel on a fire that has been ongoing for the past 2 years.
Celebrating the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the National Liberation War, the Algerian consulate in London organized a commemoration ceremony with the presence of more than 1,000 members of the national community in the United Kingdom. On the same occasion, the General Consulate of Algeria in Barcelona organized a football tournament for the Algerians living in Spain. Several youngsters coming from various cities took part in this event with the presence of Algerian football figures. And with this, we come to the end of our edition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a good night.